on Start-Up Daily TV today. Insurtech Gateway has received a $250,000 support grant from the government to accelerate its incubation program and bring more disruptive and innovative startups to the market. To tell us about the grant and how the money will be used is CEO Simon Odell, who joins us now in the studio. Hi Simon, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for joining us, Simon. We love talking Insurtech here on Start-Up Daily. It's a very exciting, very sexy sector because there is lots of really cool things happening.
Yep.
What are you guys up to?
So we're an early stage investor, so it's actually really difficult to break into the insurance market. So in addition to providing smart money or strategic capital, we've created an incubator model. So we provide additional services to help break down those barriers. So the barriers to entry for the insurance industry are quite immense, which is probably why we haven't seen that much disruption. The industry remains mostly unchanged for over 100 years.
And incredibly ripe for that disruption.
Exactly, yeah. Especially now the service providers out there, some backed by the government, to be able to lower these barriers. So we provide venture building services, access to licensing because it's a regulated market, and also access to the insurance industry for underwriting capacity and things like that as well.
In terms of the major barriers, is regulation the number one?
It's definitely up there. It can take founders 6 to 12 months to get a license and cost $20,000 to $50,000. So 6 to 12 months is a big runway without having revenue coming in, pre-revenue. So regulation is definitely a high barrier, but it just goes to show that you need on the founding team someone with that insurance or regulatory domain expertise, I'd say.
Okay, so what's your pitch to the startups? If I was someone putting together a little Insurtech and I was deciding who I was going to partner with, why would we go to you guys?
We help founders retain more equity. So generally, the faster you get to market and the faster you realise milestones which represent value uplift proof points, the less dilution you'll sustain through funding rounds. So we're very niche. So insurance is quite challenging. It's quite challenging to get a product in the market. I mean, have a look at the industry. It's remained mostly unchanged. We've got a track record in the UK. We've seen the market being disrupted over there. We're seeing Flood Flash, for example, who introduced a new parametric flood insurance product. So they're able to allow business owners in the UK who would otherwise not be able to get flood insurance to be able to get flood insurance via their new technology, this IoT device. And they actually had a flood event in the UK earlier this year, and their customers were paid for their flood claims within 24 hours of a flood event happening. Speak to the average consumer in Australia, and then they're not experiencing that level of service. UK is a good proxy for what's going to happen here potentially. So yeah, we're very excited about introducing some of these initiatives into the Australian market. The Australian market is actually quite a really good experimental ground. All the big players like to experiment here. The hierarchies are generally smaller, so decisions can be made quicker, but it's a big enough market to attract some of the global players. So yeah, we see Australia as a really good market to introduce products, achieve some early product market fit before scaling internationally into bigger consumer markets.
So it's a good test market, but does the Australian market present particular opportunities that are unique to this environment?
Yeah, it's a good question. So we have a large portion of the losses sustained here are weather peril related, so natural catastrophes. If you look at the Brisbane floods of 2011, there was $14 billion in economic loss sustained, and yet the insurance industry only picked up between $3 and $4 billion of that. So that's between 20 and 30% covered by the free market, the insurance industry. So the government back in Gateway have got, I guess, dual incentives. They're wanting to back us, given that we support startups, and they understand that a thriving startup ecosystem leads to a thriving tech sector, and we know which sector is going to be the foundation of our economy moving forward. It's the tech sector. But also they understand that it's the taxpayer who foots the bill for that residual economic loss that the insurance industry, the free market, doesn't pick up following these natural catastrophes. And Insurtech are really helping the insurance industry to augment and cover that gap. So Flood Flash, which I explained, back to more Australian-centric, the bushfire problems we've had here. So we're working with an early stage startup who has worked with NASA and Google to be able to develop some proprietary technology that can provide a much more granular understanding of fire movement, bushfire movement as it's happening. So that will help RFS to be able to deploy resources more effectively, and also bring assets online, back to augmenting the industry, bring assets online to be insurable as opposed to, at the moment, they're uninsurable, because they just don't understand what these risk profiles are, so they can't price it. Yeah, so technology has a big role to play in insurance.
It is a fascinating way it's all going to play out, and the layer of technology that goes over the top so that, as you say, you're able to price risk into everything, I think is the really fascinating part of this sector. Simon, all the best with Insurtech Gateway. Look forward to hearing from these companies.
Great.
Do send them our way so we can have a
do.
chat to them, and thanks for joining us on Start-Up
No worries,
Daily.
thanks for having me.